about spaceships.
Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show.
It's not about spaceships.
My name is Jason Ward. I'm from MakingStarWars.net. Kill podcast. And we're in a comic book store. Are you in a video store?
Yeah.
You're in the. Are you in that really creepy last?
No, this is from the day. And if you look on my right, I got the original edition re-release from '94. So it's Star Wars related too.
The final time we're going to release it. They weren't joking on that one.
Apparently not. They really meant it.
Yeah, it's like the only time in the history. Yeah. So if you're mad about not having the original one, do you not want George Lucas to keep his word to you?
Also, I thought it was weird they used a weird puppet head for the Yoda cover because it almost looks like a Mike Myers version of Yoda. Like there's no life behind it. It's just like I want to know what that photo shoot was like. Did they just take the aged puppet and put it on just put on top of a Folgers can and like
I absolutely on that version I hated it. Like I was like these are the Yoda head. I was like this is like the ugliest thing ever. And it wasn't redeemed for me because until I saw Step Brothers and John C. Reilly's his name, right? John C. Reilly is wearing the Suncoast the exclusive Suncoast one. That one you only got from Suncoast. I think it was if you like pre-ordered the laser disc or something. And and so when I saw that, I was like, it's so awful. I kind of love it now. It kind of hit that point for me. Where I was like, all right.
Now I gotta watch Step Brothers.
Yeah. That's a movie I can.
Yeah, you gotta watch that.
You've seen it before, right? Or no? Oh shit. That's like
after Anchorman. Hold on. After Anchorman, I didn't want to watch any more Will Ferrell, right? Because I don't want them to ruin it for me. Because I love Anchorman so much. I'm like, I don't think he's gonna top this. And then I was in the Lego Movie, and he showed up right at the end, and I was like, damn, they got me. Like I've been holding off the Will Ferrell. but now that it's true. So I love that movie. There, I'm like, they got me. But I guess now I gotta watch it.
I have to say, Anchorman is going to be more loved. Anchorman's probably collectively better. But Step Brothers, if we were going to the desert island today, the three of us on a boat, and we're going to be stuck there for a couple years, probably going to die there. But we have a battery that plays VHS or DVDs or whatever the fuck we have.
It's a very specific, hypothetical, post-apocalyptic.
Listen. Okay, listen. I got some spoilers about the future. Okay,
it's very specific.
I'm inviting you guys to my arc. I'm letting you on my arc. Don't ruin it.
And we only had PAL 60 hertz, right?
We only have
240 volt, right? Not the 120 volt. Like,
but PAL is technically a higher quality picture. So
okay, I have those tapes you see on the left. I have that, but I have the PAL version of that in widescreen. I bought in Germany when I was in the army. Right after the Phantom Menace came out, they were on sale. It's up here. It's in this like tin case, like this Star Destroyer tin case. You open it up, and it came with like the annotated screenplay. Not the annotated. It came with the copy of the screenplays, which, by the way, is not formatted in a real screenplay format. So when I went to write my screenplay, I wrote it in that format, thinking that's what it looked like, and I showed it to a screenwriter, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" It was. But I'm like, George Lucas put it in the fucking tin. But when we watched these videos, I noticed, why does this look better? Like, it noticeably looked better than anything I'd seen to that point. And I was like, why? And so I had to go back to the German store I bought it from. I'm like, why does it look so good? And he's like, American TV sucks.
Like regional coding or something like that?
It's because the refresh rate is better. It's more film. It's when you look at it, you'll see the difference. You'll think I didn't have, like, I had just gotten DVD, Mallrats, and so that's why I bought DVD for. And I was like, this is like DVD, like, and I was like, it's like Mallrats. Oh, people didn't like Mallrats at the time. Now people get it, but I love Mallrats. But yeah, I was like, this is more. I don't know. I didn't have a way to describe it, but yeah, it blew my mind.
Yeah. I think PAL has like an extra frame. You know what I mean? Than us or something like that. Like there's like
Well,
a higher
it's
frame
like
rate to it.
24. It's closer to 24 frames than ours is. NTSC is at 29.59, whatever, pull down. So we actually add frames and it adds a slowness to it, like a dreamy flutter. I don't know, man. But it just, the refresh rate's different on their TVs too. So if you watch PAL on their TVs, you're getting like a more cinematic, experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought PAL sounded so much more friendly than NTSC, but whatever. Yeah. So a couple of days ago, I got this book that I didn't realize was here until this morning, but it's this Kevin Smith Secret Stash book. And that was sent to me by the publisher, and it is pretty good. I mean, honestly, I already have the book, so if it was trash, I'd be like, oh, it's dog shit. But I got it, read through it pretty quickly, and it's like, have you guys seen that other book for Ghostbusters and Back to the Future that came out recently, where it has like little tiny like props on the inside?
I have the 35th anniversary book that came with your Time magazine. Deal. Is that in there?
Some comics.
No,
that's all I got.
Like they put out a Back to the Future book of like a year or two ago, and it had like the Polaroid of Marty McFly, fading out, and like a copy of the clock tower like pamphlet that Marty gets. It has like all these like replicas of little printed materials that they could put inside, and this has that same kind of stuff, which I appreciated for what it is. It was a little bit like I thought this was funny because there's a Mallrats call sheet, and strangely, call sheets haven't changed very, very much. The call sheets that I got from Rogue One all the way up to The Last Jedi pretty much had that same photocopied thing with the thing. It's really like kind of like a standard that hasn't changed too much. I think they did sort of start changing the Star Wars ones, how they worked, because they always
now it's all emojis.
It's
right.
Yeah. It's all
they coded in emojis, so we can't tell. What's eggplant droid? What is that? I don't...
Robot head sunrise. What?
Fuck the droids. We're not using them in this scene. That's what it means.
Oh, that's what it means. Okay.
Yeah. We're on. But the book though is pretty much like in a strange way. I feel like Kevin Smith died as I'm reading it though. It's really well done,
Don't
but it's
say
like
that.
no, but that's how it's written. It's it's
like a looking back on him kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a retrospective, but it's like and every few pages you'll have like, Jason Mewes does the foreword, but then you'll have like Ahsoka writing the here's the special thing about Kevin Smith. And you know what I mean? And it, like I said, it's weird, but a lot of the stuff is in his own words too. But like there's like this middle one, and it's Who is Kevin Smith by Ben Affleck, and I guess it's supposed to be like 200 words or something, like a little blurb. And his was so long they turned it into this like little tiny, like you feel like something you would get at church. It's like a little tiny like
the Church of Fleck.
See it right here.
Look at that.
It's like this, like you open it up and just like a few pages on that. But so in essence, it is a celebration of the of Kevin Smith, and it has this internal one is pretty hilarious. It's his thing to a Vancouver film school, and the
one he went to for like 3 months.
It's like, have you ever worked in a professional capacity? And like, he just does it. He says, no. Have you ever experienced an experience as a performer? And he's like, on the visual, high school productions. And it's just like written like all in words. And it's like name Canadian film productions or whatever. And he's like, is this a trick question? Because like they were all Canadian, and that they had like you could like circle,
Degrassi.
Yeah, right.
Well, what was funny about Mallrats is when it first came out on tape, I had seen it in the theater at Comic-Con because they screened it at Comic-Con. And I was like, this is great. This is because you're seeing it at Comic-Con with comic book people. This is the coolest movie ever. I bring it home, half the people walk out. some friends, like, we're bored. But they get to the Stan Lee scene, right? And he shoots Stan Lee when he goes, at the very end, Brody goes, hey, Stan. He goes, yeah. He shot it like Stan Lee was dead. Because my friends asked me, did Stan Lee die? I'm like, no, he's not. He's alive. like it's very in memoriam, Stan Lee. Like
it has an interesting anecdote about that where he I think he combines Stan Lee with, I don't know if it was like Frank Miller, I want to say, and makes this like new character that's like Stan Miller. And it was like the stand-in, and then somebody's like, hey, why don't you, we could just get Stan Lee to do it. And he's like, really? Well, Hollywood's great.
His producer knew Stan, the Jax.
Like when I created the Hulk, he was a nice guy 1 minute and a rage of emotions the next.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The book like has like, who was Kevin Smith? Like I said, by Scott Mosier. Who was Kevin Smith? He's a humongous heart wrapped in a hockey jersey. He's loving, caring, weeping, cursing, creative machine. He is my friend. Over the years, we've been everything to each other but lovers, and I believe that's until one of us shuffles off this mortal coil. I can't rule out the possibility.
And then I sleep with the dead body. Yes.
Yeah. So no, but that's what's like weird about it is part of it feels like a Star Wars book that's almost like a J.W. Rinsler kind of thing, but it also feels like it's mixed with a yearbook at the same time, and I mean that like in a good way.
So this video store background was apropos for today's show.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Like it was totally not planned that way, but now I'm like, okay, all right, okay, all right.
Into the future.
Yeah, well,
just vague people, just the wrong people's names at the wrong time. It's a whole nother story.
Yeah, well, when I was a young, not even a teenager, about to become a teenager, there was sort of this like weird jump off point for me where I got like my teenage best friends, but before that, I was sort of a Jason Mewes to a bunch of 14-year-olds when I was 10.
Awards.
You know what I mean, though? No,
Right.
but like they were like my best friend growing up on my street was 4 years older than I was. So we kind of hit this point where he was like 15 and I was 11. And it was like, we can't really hang out the same, but we're trying to make it happen. He's giving me all his Star Wars shit. I'm taking it. Like, thanks, man.
You were his short round.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
And if you followed the story the other day, I'm about to take the girlfriend from then if it works out. But anyways, no.
Right.
maybe. I'm getting ahead of myself, but maybe. But anyways, yeah, so they're like, oh, you have to see this movie. It's hilarious. And so I think I want to say I was 14, maybe. I might have been 13 at this time, and went down to LA and we saw Clerks. And then I was like, this is the best movie ever. It was, no one had made comedy for our generation that was for us yet. You know what I mean? And like I said, because my friends were a little bit older, I kind of had like, I was the youngest of that, I think, that could possibly see it. And I only got into it, I think, because I was 6 feet tall by then. Like, luckily, I was already tall that people didn't question me. I could buy beer and stuff sometimes.
I think he handled self-deprecation very well. Is why those movies are so good.
Yeah, well,
even today, he does really well with that. I mean, I got a Kevin Smith. So I met Kevin Smith at Comic-Con the year Mallrats came out, or right after it came out. Like I can't remember. My mind is fuzzy on when I saw it, Mallrats at Comic-Con, and when I met him at the booth. Okay. I had to have seen Mallrats because when I saw him, he didn't have any merch up, which is weird, right?
Yeah.
And I think he maybe had like a View Askew shirt or something with the clown or some weird fucking. And so I told him, you need those blueprints from the movie. Right? The Looney Tunes blueprints. And he was like, people would buy those? I'm like, people would buy those. Like, I'd have a line. I'd have a line down the fucking. So the next year he had those things. But so his booth would get bigger and bigger.
Are you going to sue?
No. Yes. So like, but I just want him to sign the. You guys can't see back here on my wall, but I have a wall of all the Clerks animated figures like strung up. So I got them all, and I got his
shopping in your store.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
his.
There's a dude jerking
Yes.
it to the porno covers back there.
That's where I make my money. So I don't know if you guys know that's how I can work from home the whole time. I just let them use that room. So, and if they need a helping hand, so like,
Just don't do the cleanup.
so in 2001, I came back from the army and I was at Comic-Con and they had moved Artist Alley to the other side of the convention center. And I know because Jim Lee was over there drawing. And at the time, Jim Lee was semi-retired and nobody knew who he was, which is weird to me.
Wow.
Because he used to walk into Comic-Con like that scene in Man of Steel or Batman v Superman where all they're trying to reach out and touch Superman. That was what it was like for Jim Lee. And these kids were asking him to draw anime and they were making fun of his art. It was weird. So I'm sitting there like they're looking at that like that's weird. I look to my left and Kevin Smith is just leaned up against a pillar, one of those like stone pillars. And I look at him and he stops and looks at me and he gets that, oh shit, and I just look at him, I'm like, don't worry. And then I just gave him the thumbs up and he was like, like, and then got back to reading. But yeah, so it was our silent Bob conversation at Comic-Con.
Well, because when we were coming out of the 80s, all of
Some
the
Jim Lee for you.
Oh shit. When we were coming out of the 80s, we were moving out of I think like the SNL Bill Murray kind of era of comedy, and we were going into that really shitty City Slickers, fucking people watching Mad About You and Friends like taste.
Yeah.
And so there was this weird vacuum, I think, that was just ready to be filled. And when he went in and obviously the big scene that I think changed the whole thing was the Death Star conversation. And that became like a really those kinds of like Pulp Fiction did 15 of those in one movie. Just wasn't about Star, it wasn't about pop culture necessarily. And but he did that one and it was about Star Wars. I remember Quentin's other one was the Top Gun one. Remember that one from that other film?
He also wrote the Silver Surfer line in Crimson Tide.
Oh, really?
Like that whole Silver Surfer? Okay, that's actually Quentin tells a story where he just wrote that one scene for them, and that's where that gets in there.
Right.
Did you think Troops would have got done without the Kevin Rubio short Troops? It was like cops but with stormtroopers. I feel like that doesn't exist without that Death Star conversation in Clerks.
I'll ask him.
That would be really.
I'll ask him. I'll say, hey, would that exist without him? See what he says. Because
refresh my memory. What did he actually say? I don't think I maybe know actually what he said for that.
Oh, I haven't asked him yet. when I ask him though.
No, what's the Death Star thing that you guys are talking about?
Oh, so have you seen Clerks?
Yeah.
There's a big conversation.
I'm like, okay, it's that conversation.
The least enthusiastic yes ever. Like, oh yeah. Oh,
oh
I
that's shit from 1994.
at the time I got caught masturbating in the locker room.
So are you gonna make us watch Dogma too? No.
Yeah, I got the toy.
No, but anyways, like when you saw the Star Wars conversation, you were like, there was like an air of authenticity to it, but it was also elevated, and it also led to an era of shit that I both like. I loved those Kevin Smith movies as a young 20-year-old, and I also despised them at the same time because Kevin Smith is a wordsmith, and you had people who are not funny, who are just fat comic book fucking dudes who think that if they throw in a bunch of F words like me, that if they're going to be funny, and it wasn't, and it kind of led to a really, really like insurgence of edgelords into the whole like comic book Star Wars kind of nerdy community stuff where hot takes, were everything. And it's like, I felt like before that, you didn't really have the Comic-Con guy, what's a Nubian? You didn't have that guy asking hard, weird questions in real life. And he made it okay, I felt like, for that weird vacuum to be outside, which was
don't forget what's a Nubian, and then Nabo, and then Watto tells Qui-Gon Jinn, Nubian, yes. And so 2 years later, and I sat in the theater going, motherfucker watched fucking Chasing Amy. It had to be. Like, what are the odds? Watto would say, what's a Nubian? Now we know what's a Nubian. It's a royal ship.
So really quickly before, I don't want to ignore the chat too much. Jordan says, today is my 3-month anniversary of being a channel member, and I'm celebrating by looking at Kevin Smith's stash. Thanks, man. And I appreciate anybody who's a channel member and supports the show. So
give me your appreciation awards. Give it to me. I demand it.
and happy 3-month anniversary. I'll send you the pictures of my panties as I promised.
Underoos.
Underoos. Yeah. So, Star Wars men's manties, which are underoos, from a fat kid.
Vacuum sealed for your freshness.
I like Jordan. Oh shit! He's all. We don't want the post office to catch you. We have procedures. Jordan says, I've been watching this genuinely thinking 2 people have been standing behind Rob.
And staring at that one cover forever. Can't make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
But so when Mallrats came out, I was about the soundtrack, because this is back when Weezer was still good, and like every B-side Weezer had released was better than any single they ever put out after Pinkerton, which is fucking wild and crazy. And but they had Suzanne on there, and I was like, oh, that's a song, friend. Yeah, but that yeah, the whole soundtrack was good. It was fun, and it was
Clerks
like
and Mallrats. They're both really good.
And like 90s movies oftentimes would do the soundtrack, but it would be full of inauthentic, like, and I guess Weezer and, well, it was like yeah, it would be like covers, but it would just be like really shitty LA bands that were like sounded like Motley Crue last month, but now they were playing Tesco guitars or something and being like, yeah, we're from Seattle.
The sound-alikes or something like that is what they call them.
Sounded like, yeah, that's a good name for them. And so anyways, yeah, it was nice, like when that era like hit, because it was aimed at us, and it was even though that was like a bigger, Miramax, I guess, was kind of got big, but it was sort of a corporate film in a way, but it didn't really have that feeling to it. And stuff about it though that like really does suck today, that annoys me, like the sound effects and stuff. Almost like it's almost like when you watch Bill and Ted, and like you hear that, you're like, what is this? What are they doing this? And I kind of feel that way now whenever I watch Mallrats. But I think really could relate to that Brody character as a teenager.
Yeah, I think
I read comics, can't start some shit.
I think so little. It's weird, the Gen Xers or the late Gen Xers, like we came right in at the end.
Yeah.
So little content was directed at us. Like content was directed at us. Like we were too young. Transformers wasn't directed at us when we were 5, but we liked it. Yeah. By the time we're like 7 or 8, they're like, you get Muppet Babies. Like what? Shit was made for my little brother. Like they forgot about us. Like very few things came out that were catered to our age. Like Batman was one of the few things.
Batman,
right?
X-Men,
they came out. Right. Well, X-Men, that's 99. That's like way later.
No, there was one earlier than that.
Well,
the movie or the cartoon?
Cartoon.
Okay, the cartoon. Yeah, but so few things were.
Yeah.
So it's like even like Slackers and Days for Confused wasn't really for us. You know what I mean? Like that's for kids that grew up in the 70s. And at the time in the mid 90s, we would get Crow, but then it was right next to Flintstones. And it was like only reason why I was able to go to Flintstone to see Crow was because you got to stop talking when I'm talking.
Right,
throwing me off, but you got to just wait a turn. So I will stop and let you talk for real. But I only reason why I got to see the Crow was because my friend's family all went to see Flintstones, and we just snuck out and went into the Crow. Like we lined up the screenings, but so few was for us. I mean, now it feels like everything's made for us, so it's hard to complain. But I think that's why Kevin's stuff stands out, because it felt like he was speaking to people at least our age when so few were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you get to see Mallrats in the theater, you guys? Did you guys see that one in the theater, or was that no,
just at Comic-Con?
Yeah, me and Randy went and saw that in the theater, and it was surprisingly a really good time, and for me anyways then. And it's kind of weird because the movie is really old now, so you do see the cracks in it a bit more. And what the actual like legit criticisms of it at the time, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're missing the point. Like, if you're thinking about that, you're not laughing at what was funny, you know. But now when I watch it, I do see how it is a little bit strange. I do remember in a just a really random one-off, it was on channel 13 here in Southern California, KCOP back then. I don't know if it still is, but that's what it used to be called.
Yeah,
And
KCLP. Yeah.
KCOP.
OP.
Yeah, and anyways, at the end,
Hey,
when when you see what's his name, Ben Affleck is having relations with the underage girl or whatever, and they play the video. Well, on that one, they just had like footage of an outtake of Ben Affleck like getting off of her and going like, yeah. So anyway, like he's just like talking about some shit. It was just like some random I've never seen in something censored or like changed. Like if you watch Goonies on TV, they removed like some of the stuff with mouth where he's like talking about the sex dungeon and the cockroaches to the maid. And instead you get a scene where the jock meets them in a liquor store and it starts to beat up Mikey. And then the older brother is all, nobody beats up my brother but me. And then later on when the jock takes him on the car and is trying to run him off the road, you know why. Actually kind of makes more sense. But anyways, so that was their answer to it, was let's just use an outtake of Ben Affleck getting up after a take and talking to the director in the scene. Like, it was very bizarre. But anyways, yeah. So this the book is full of photos as you would expect, you know, and a lot of the stuff, I think if you've been following it, is stuff that you will already know. But if you're like newer to it, or if you weren't following that's the Kevin Smith shit back in the day, it's a pretty good overview. It's got storyboards of LaFours pulling down the stage and shit like that.
The dude, he was from Captain Power, right? He was Tank.
Oh shit!
That's when that's when I saw him. Like, it's Captain Power. Like,
he was in Conan because he was Schwarzenegger's training partner from Belgium.
Oh really?
And then he was like the Hollywood strongman for a long time.
I love Captain Power though.
It's just tons and tons of stuff.
I haven't
like what is it? The Running Man. He's in that one too.
Yeah, he's in the Running Man.
Yeah, Running Man is a weird one in the sense that it was like really awesome when it came out. Then it aged out, but then it aged out so badly it came back as being cool. Like,
you ever read the book?
No, it's short story there.
I don't know how to read.
It's a teacher. He wrote himself because he was a teacher. It's about a teacher who joins it to feed his family or to save his family. So I'm like, this would make an excellent series on HBO.
I'm a teacher.
If one of those Westworld guys wants to pick it up, you know, it doesn't have to be a giant, goofy 80s American Gladiators looking thing. But
dude, I say they fucking do it now. Take the best of Kindergarten Cop, the best of Running Man, put them together. I'm a teacher. I'd watch that. No?
Yeah,
you're not buying
propaganda.
You're not buying it.
That's probably what it would be.
it's the immediate silence that Wars doesn't appreciate. Like,
no, he's not buying it. I thought he was going to be on board. I thought he was a big Kindergarten Cop fan because.
No, I'm more of a Twins guy.
Like I said, Twins 2, it's coming with
Twins 3,
Tracy Morgan,
3, bro. Tracy Morgan, yeah.
I'm a Jingle All the Way guy. I'll take Jingle All the Way over Kindergarten Cop or Twins any day of the week.
Get this franchise pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would make it an either or, but yeah, Jingle All the Way is pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't. Well, you know what I haven't seen in a long time though is Chasing Amy, and something tells me Chasing Amy wouldn't fly today.
No, not.
Well, look, I'm not
curious.
gonna. Kevin's already had to, you know, defend his own films and everything. But it's weird to me how the movie. I have friends in the LGBTQ community, and you know that was seen as like a film that was finally talking about something that they had been dealing with. Was that a lot of guys just think a guy would be able to solve a woman being gay, you know, like, no, it's not it at all.
Yeah.
But now people think it's something else that I don't understand the controversy behind that. You know, I don't get it. So
No,
especially
is there
since
one? I don't know if there is.
yeah, there is, and
Okay.
you can see it on one of his stand-ups, one of his late night with Kevin Smith, evening with
Mhm.
Kevin Smith. I can't remember. It's probably the second one because the third one he was just talking about Shecky for 2 hours. It was fucking weird. But one person asked him a question and he goes off for 45 minutes about Shecky. You know, and
Okay.
it's just like, man, oh man.
Wow.
So I think it was the second one someone brought it up and they were like, it hurt me, and I just don't get it because I think people think he was endorsing that thought with the film, but that wasn't the case. So I don't understand
A
it.
lot of people don't get that if you make a joke, it's not your actual perspective, and people don't get that if you write a character, it doesn't mean that you're endorsing the character. Like if you write American History X, it doesn't mean that that's your
Plus,
perspective.
it is the most. It's not realistic in that no artist is going to own a really cool fucking loft in the middle of Canada that looks fucking amazing, like those two do.
Yeah.
But it shows a pretty good, accurate representation of what it was like to be an indie comics creator in the '90s. Like where her and all were forget her name, but where she was like, was it Alice? I can't remember her name. But where she's sitting there like bagging up all of her comics with their friends. They're all have a bag and boarding night where they're drinking wine and talking. Or when he's at the convention in the beginning, you know, and you actually see like an artist alley, you know, they had to make that con. Like this
Yeah.
would be, I mean, what movie was putting a comic convention in the movies? Like the closest was when they drove by the convention center in Demolition Man, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I got a lot of love for the movie, but no, it wouldn't fly then. And I don't think it would have flown 10 years ago for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I do think what's weird about it is if an independent person made the movie and put it on YouTube, it would fly. I think we're in a weird so like case in point, the Aquaman cartoon's coming out, right? And there was a trailer for it. It's in that sort of like they call it Cal Art style or whatever.
Mhm.
And it people are like, oh, it's not really Aquaman. But someone made a comment on Twitter that I actually agree with. They're like, yeah, if someone who was independent, an independent animator made this, you would all be like, oh, why aren't more movies like this?
Mhm.
But then when their actual studios make it, then you go, this is shit. We just want to. And I feel like that's the spirit in which Chasing Amy, you know, sort of exists. Like I think if an independent person made it now, yeah, but if a studio didn't, somehow people think studios are like on it to teach people things. In a way, like I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying it accurately. You're better at the wordsmithing than me, Jason. You kind of understand what I'm saying? Like
No, I think I know exactly what you're saying. It's that it also has to do because so much of I'm going to call it the Tumblr social education, the Tumblr college, not real college, but Tumblr college.
sort of missed out on Tumblr, so
Takes well
Yes,
what
I hear.
what it does is it takes something complicated like Michel Foucault and which is, you know, who has theories, for instance, about literary power and takes it and then applies it to everything. And it's something that most interdisciplinary like academics are doing. But what they do, but like if you were like, I come from American Studies, and American Studies, we would say, oh, Michel Foucault, you can apply that to this project and this project. What are the limitations? And there are limitations. Well, when you have a Tumblr college education, you hear it as if it is the law, if it is fact, as if pronouns matter more than changing the actual systemic issues that lead to that being a problem, as opposed. And I'm middle of the road on it. I think like I'm like, yeah, you know what? If somebody wants to be called they, them, she, her, it, whatever, I'll respect you as a person and call you what you want to be called. At the same time, if everybody adheres to that, it doesn't change the fact that there's actual underlying systemic issues that lead to it being a problem. So what you end up having is somebody like Kevin Smith, who now either has power or has perceived power, goes and makes a movie like Chasing Amy, then it gets attacked from the power that it has rolling behind it. And whereas if it was an independent movie he made and he was perceived as having no power, people would be like, yeah, I want to have this conversation with you.
Do you think that
That's
maybe
my take on
more LGBTQ folks are fans of that movie because it kind of shows a multiple relationship, and there's a lot of folks who label themselves polysexual or pansexual or whatever?
Well, I don't want to speak for anybody, obviously, but I mean, I would say in the context of the time in which it was released, it was definitely a bigger ally film and an advocate for non-straight or cis relationship, whatever you want to call
I,
it. Like
I couldn't get my heterosexual friends to go with me. It was me and like
Really?
3 gay women. Yeah, and they're I don't know. They had a friend who was weird. I don't know what he was. He was a weird guy. I gotta say, it was weird. He didn't like the movie, but they all loved it, and I came out going like, I was the only one who was like, there was comic book people in here. There was a convention. I know. I saw the Joe Quesada in the background. I know event comics. Like, so like my experience is way different than what the average person's experience was coming from. I did not understand Holden. Was it Holden McNeil? Right. I didn't understand Ben Affleck's character and his viewpoint at all, but they understood that guy.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I was like, what? You know, like, because it never dawned on me to hit all my gay friends. Like, you know, oh, they don't know what Rob is. I was just like, they're the only ones these are the only people I know that like are JRPGs, Bone, and fucking Spawn comics. And they're not dudes, you know, like, for whatever reason. So we'd all go out, you know, like I was friends with people who like the same stuff. Like, that's it, you know, race, creed, sex didn't matter to me, but they had a completely different life experience with that. And I do think now that they're, you know, the pansexual and people who, you know, bisexual people, they have, that movie plays probably way different to them. And I just know, like, the first time the movie was seen as an issue was when I watched that Kevin Smith. And even with Kevin Smith, I was like, what? And so then I went to some friends, their house, and I was like, hey, is this an issue? Like, oh yeah, it's kind of an issue. I'm like, why? Well, because he's saying that, you know, all she needs is a man. I'm like, that's what the character's saying that she's telling him no, and that's just not the case, and he doesn't get it. You know, well, at the end, he just sort of like, you know, he just makes a comic and moves on. I'm like, that's not what happened at all. Like, they're never like, it's a complicated. I just think life is complicated, right? And in movies, we want something clearly defined. And then sometimes when it is clearly defined, people go, doesn't have any depth. It just preached to me. It's a weird double take that people have as consumers or viewers. Some I tend to look at things like, does this invoke an emotion? You know, do I resonate with this? I like when Quentin Tarantino talks about, you know, he takes the characters, he kind of figures out a story halfway, and then the characters do what they're going to do. And he's pretty brave because he'll go to places I'm like, I don't know if I'd have the balls to write that shit down. That's what that character would do. That character would be that mean. That character would do that vicious thing. But I'm like, I don't know if I want that fucking trouble, you know? and that is a complicated issue to bring up, you know? Like, what do? Do you go where the story needs to go, or do you not, you know?
Well,
so
I mean, from memory, like I said, I haven't seen that one in maybe 10 years now. So I kind of like need a refresher. I need to watch it again and see how it feels today. But one of the big things I think that the movie kind of did contribute to, you know, Dumb Guys, was the fact that it sort of in a weird way deals with, not in a weird way, but in a pretty obvious way, deals with like slut shaming. And the idea that because, you know, when back then, especially, maybe still today, I don't know, but you're taught like, don't have sex, save yourself for marriage. And then you end up being like, well, realistically, people are going to get down a little bit. And then you get with somebody and then you're like, what? You were with twice as many people as me? And then you can't handle it. And then in reality, it doesn't really truly matter, especially if there's something authentic going on between those two people. And I remember that being something where it was like, yeah, you know, I think there's a pretty valid point being made here about not valuing a human by their past experiences. You know what I mean? And that was, I think at the time anyway, I think kind of helps get us to a place where slut shaming maybe isn't as
Prevalent.
as prevalent or even as like as harsh.
No, we're in a world now, bro. We're in a weird world now where if all I do is draw naked anything online, I'm cool so long as, how do I say this? So long as I identify with, how do I say this?
Yeah.
It's weird. If I draw a chick that doesn't have big boobs, like if I draw a black cat and she don't have big boobs because I did this, I get shit on by every fucking brony there is out there, right?
But if you
tells me black
what
cat has to have big boobs, and I'm trying to suffocate art, and I'm somehow like, I don't know what's the word, like censoring big boobs. But then if I draw big boobs, I get it from another side that goes, you're sexualizing art. You know, and I'm like, well, what the fuck is it? What is it? What is it, folks? And you know what it is? People need to spend more time making shit and less time fucking around, you know, bitching about what other people are doing. Like it's a real problem where that's where, you know, as a creator, you have to build this wall where you're like, I just don't care. I just don't care. You know, like, what was my intent? Was my intent to sexualize a bunch of art? What if it was? So fucking what? Like, what world do you live in? Like, you can't be liberal and then tell me you can't, like, fetish over some lines. Like, what if that's my kink? Like, so what? What do you care what I like? What if I like to draw what if I like to stare at some fucking pancakes?
What if
butter?
What if making people on Twitter mad is my kink, and now you're kink shaming me? What if that happens?
That's why when, you know, every time Quentin puts feet in the film, people go, "Oh, he put feet in the film." I'm like, God bless him. You know, I mean, what a fucking life. You get to spend how much money, and you get to put some. If that's the worst you got, like, God love him. Like, it's not my thing, you know, but whatever. Like, I so anyhow. But Kevin, man, like when I saw, so the two movies I saw, I guess I saw Rise of Skywalker in the theaters, but right before that, I saw Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Yeah, because it was on my birthday. It was October 10th, 2020, when he had that double feature. And, you know, there's a Chasing Amy resolution in that film if you haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, there's a resolution to that story, which I'm like, I would like for Kevin to write a book. Like, I think this is one of the few things where I think.
This is a kind of it right here.
Right. I mean, a fictionalized book about these characters, the in-between. Yeah, like. Because, like, after reading Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm like, yeah, I think Kevin Smith could do this, you know, for, like, his little View Askewniverse.
Yeah.
You know, a good 400 pages on just what happened between Chasing Amy and the end of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Yeah, to go back to, like the earliest part of what you're talking about is actually, in my opinion, is an educational issue that we have in the education system. Because what you end up having is a lot of dumb people, and you're like, your teacher, you're like, just fucking think critically for a second. And then once they do it, you're like, thank you. See, you can do it. And the teachers have pushed this boulder up the mountain, and then they leave it up there on the top of that mountain. Right. But what never happens is they never actually really get a chance to go into the quality of the critique that you're making. So people who are very intellectually lazy think if you can make a critique and you could throw it out online, you are now smart. You done it. You got an A in the class for today. And the quality of the critique doesn't matter. It's just that you were able to make one. You identified somewhere where you could have an argument.
I feel like that's something Ryan Johnson would sneak into a Knives Out sequel. You know?
Yeah, no, but it's
seriously
true, though. It really is true, because I've, you know, like when I was a grad student, I was working with undergrads. It was just like most of it was just like trying. A lot of the kids I got were from business school, part of it, who had to take American Studies, Women in American Society, as one of their outside prerequisite courses, you know. And I had to deal with some very magical minds, to say the least. But just the fact that you could get them to formulate, you know, when I say an argument, I don't mean like a blah, 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 blah. I mean like an actual, like, here's my idea and my problem, and here's why I think so. And wow. Yeah. So that's where you end up with all of this shit. But to bring it back to Star Wars,
all that from a book to bring it back to Star Wars. But that does, we're dealing with that right now with a certain group of Star Wars fans who can't take the Star Wars visions because it doesn't look quote unquote American.
Is that really a thing?
I don't understand.
Yeah, it really is a thing. I've been here. I got it for, well, I don't, it's over the top. I'm like, did you not see General Grievous with his swirling around lightsabers? You want to talk to me about over the top? I got one friend who's a decent person was like, hey man, this isn't Kurosawa because Kurosawa doesn't do sword fights that are over the top. I'm like, yeah, this is anime Kurosawa. Like you can invoke Kurosawa but not follow the. Are we doing this? Like, are we like,
Yeah.
like this is like Miyazaki, but you're not going to get true Miyazaki because he would never do this. I get that. Like Star Wars is in itself is Kurosawa without being Kurosawa. Like, I don't know. Like it's weird.
I think I mentioned it on the stream maybe before, but I saw someone saying like complaining about Disney Star Wars era and saying, I wish Fox had bought it. I wish they had offered it to Fox. And I was like, Disney owns Fox, right? I didn't even tweet it. I just looked at it and I was just like, this is
Shake your head.
this is where we're at. But there's a panel in here, and he gets more than most, and it's Who is Kevin Smith by Mark Hamill. The thing you have to understand about Kevin Smith is that he's never lost his sense of wonder, and that's something I share with him. The things that I liked as a child, I pretty much still like as a grown-up. When I was younger, I kept thinking, gee, I wonder when I'm going to stop liking Laurel and Hardy, or when I'm going to stop reading comic books. People don't remember, but there was a time when you were expected to outgrow these childhood enthusiasms. That's one of the things I really liked about Kevin. He's very much in touch with his inner child. He's someone who has boundless enthusiasm for the things that he loves, and he's a go-getter. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He gets up every day saying, what can I do? Can I do a podcast? Am I going to do a stage show? Am I going to do a con? It's breathtaking. I'm sort of the opposite. I always say, how can I figure out a way to stay in my pajamas all day long? I first became aware of Kevin when my son pointed out that the dialogue in Clerks about the cost of maintaining the Death Star, it was so funny and so real in terms of the way fans talk. When he asked me to do Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, I was hesitant to play it on its Star Wars elements, but I went ahead because Kevin was involved and I had a really good time. When we were shooting the movie, I remember talking to his mother on set, and I couldn't help but think that I was seeing a flashback to Kevin's childhood. It was like he was 8 years old playing with his action figures on a Star Wars playset. But this one time he had life-sized action figures, including me as Cockknocker, and was deriving the same joy from it that he did as a kid. We're lucky to have Kevin Smith. In all his movies, the point of view is always uniquely Kevin's. And I think that's what makes him stand out as a creator. He has an original voice. He's one of a kind. I'm just glad the world has him. I'm glad that I know him, and I feel very lucky to have worked with him. So it's like, in this book, you have stuff from Kevin Smith and from Mark Hamill on Kevin Smith and Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka. Like when you get down to it, like the Star Wars connections in the book, they run pretty deep actually, and for obvious reasons. And
didn't Kevin do story work on Underworld? Because I remember reading that story, and then he would never talk about it.
I don't think so, man. I mean, I remember that being a made up fake rumor that kept happening. Like they kept saying Kevin Smith is directing the Star Wars TV show, and it was like fake Ain't It Cool news stories that had no merit to them. And then the only thing that I remember being concrete is that homeboy from Battlestar Galactica was the main showrunner on it. Ron D. Moore. Have you guys ever seen that sketch from Portlandia with Ronald D. Moore, where the couple stays home and watches all the Battlestar Galactica, and then they want more, so they go find Ronald D. Moore to write more, and but it's just like a really jovial black man, and they invite him into the house, and he like picks up the story for them. It's such a good sketch. It's really, really good. But
and then he gives him barbecue and a foot massage.
Yeah.
Good ass barbecue.
Good ass barbecue. But but I mean, the book doesn't shy away from shit where you're like, oh, Jersey Girl, where he kind of like takes his steps his foot.
I saw that in the theaters.
Yeah, me too.
I'll say this about Jersey Girl. Like,
I've only seen
first off, the Sweeney Todd sequence is worth the show anyway. It's like what would later be what was that the one that Arndt wrote and directed, Little Miss Sunshine. It's like the dark version of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think I don't know why. Look, compared to a lot of the fucking movies that were coming out at that time, I would gladly watch any movie that has fucking get I'm brain farting. God damn it, fucking
Yeah.
George Carlin, George
Yeah.
Carlin in it. You know what I mean? Over. I mean, what were the movies coming out at the time? Bring It On. I mean, not a lot
It
of
wasn't a good time.
Martin
It wasn't.
Lawrence, Blue Streak, stuff like that. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
got Daredevil. Like, come on, guys.
Black,
you know,
Black
like,
Knight.
yeah, the early, like, look, every now and then you get a Road to Perdition, but they can't all be Road to Perdition. So I'll take
or the
Jersey
Green
Girl.
Mile.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes into the stuff with what's his face, from Die Hard. It goes into the stuff like with him, like
Right.
trying to co-direct the movie under the director, and him going, "Now we're gonna go again," and him going, "You want to take a swing at me?" Like trying to fight Kevin Smith, which is, what kind of cocaine was he on that day? That's what I want to know, because that definitely sounds like a cokehead at a party. We're just like, hey man, hey, you mind? Can I get a drink in here? What, you want to take a swing at me? Like that, it kind of plays like that. And you're like, oh, somebody just came out of the bathroom.
Oh,
But yeah,
Bruce
so
Willis.
and like it goes into Zach and Mary make a porno, you know, and those sections are, I think they get the inadequate amount of pages for their importance, you know. They like where it's like a good 15 pages, you know, and then you get a good same thing with like Cop Out, and those ones aren't my favorite of the Kevin Smith like films, obviously.
It
and
gave us a
honestly.
great GIF. Tracy
one?
Morgan gave us one of the greatest. Nope,
Oh, yeah.
nope, hell no. And for anything else, you know, like if anything can come out of that scenario, is that gave us one of the greatest GIFs of
Yeah.
all time.
Yeah, and then it goes into like Tusk and Red State, and like, you know, like those ones I thought was like, okay, we're getting more back on track here. Like you don't got to be everything has to be an extreme comedy, you know. And I appreciate those films, and it even goes into like a little like history of comic book men, which surprisingly I liked. I don't really like shows like that. Like you know, like there's like, I'm not knocking you guys who like it, but there's like people who watch like Storage Wars or some shit like that, and it's like their jam. And or that one show where they go into Vegas, like what's that one?
yup.
You know that one? Yeah, and it's like on this one, on that one, at least you were like, oh, they're showing Castle Grayskull or some shit. Like, oh, I remember that, you know, and I want to see that. Whereas on those other shows, I just don't really give a shit. So that was nice. But anyways, yeah, how do you recommend the book? If you are interested in Kevin Smith at all, or if you especially if you are interested in his films, it's really nice. It's really, really well done. And yeah, I think it's on Amazon now. It's as a cover price is $65 though, but I don't think you're gonna pay that if you don't wait until, you know, if you order it sometime soon. But
Amazon Prime.
yeah, well, no, it's like I sometimes like Star Wars books will come out, like coffee table books. Sometimes they send them to me, sometimes they don't. When they don't, if I buy it right away, it's like, oh cool, I got Star Wars storyboards for $20, but then you miss it, it's $60, you know, and that fucking burns. It makes me never want to buy those things, you know. Yeah, and
You know, the ones that don't come down in price too much are the Star Wars Photo Archives books. So I waited and waited. I'm like, well, I'll just get it now. I'm just tired of waiting.
what was like the retail on that one? That one's like huge, right? That one's like a really expensive one.
Yeah, it was like 200. I got it for like 169, 159, something like that. But,
Yeah, and
yeah, but 600 pages, dude. It's so fucking big. I'm like, well,
Jesus.
is there a digital version
guys,
of that?
look, it wouldn't matter because the point of owning this is the size. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. The size of it is what makes all it, because like the printing's so good, and I rarely talk shit up, but the printing's so good, you feel like you own the fucking paintings that they were when Doug Chang, they put the paintings in there. They're so fucking big, and they're so when it folds out, it's like 2 feet wide. You know,
Yeah,
maybe
well,
even 3 feet. Like it's crazy.
One of those strips in it of like little technological audio strips. and you open it up, and it goes, "Hi, I'm Doug Chang, and I'm your friend. I'm here to help you read this book, and I'll be with you on this journey."
Which page would you like to turn to?
Do you have Cash App?
He's like, "Hey,
What?
me and some of the guys were thinking about getting dinner at Foodles. If you want to cash at me, I'll put in your order for you." But
Doug Chain's a nice guy.
Whitney is super nice.
Brought to
At
you
the
by the motherfucking Cash App.
at the very first celebration, there was like a presentation going on, and I was just like, I don't know how often this shit's ever gonna happen. And I got up during the middle of the presentation, like fucking Solid Snake, dude. Fucking squatted, dude. I was like walking like Sebulba, kind of. I didn't even know who Sebulba really was yet. But I was like fucking boot over, dude. And I'm like, "Hey, Doug." He's like in the front. And he was like,
Hey,
"Oh."
Doug.
I'm like, "Good work, man." He's like, "Oh, thank you." He's like super nice. And I shook his hand. And I'm like, "I'm gonna go back to my seat." And he's like, "Okay." he was sitting with, and I said the same thing to he was with Tara Whitlatch, who designed Jar Jar. And yeah, I don't know. I was like, might be the only chance I ever had to meet the guy. I wasn't gonna miss it, because at that time, I mean, I was still cutting Star Wars things out of magazines and shit. I was like, I can't believe this isn't a magazine. Like Star Wars did a really like crazy marketing.
Bro, when Drew Struzan had a series of TV guide covers, I had to get those fucking TV guides to put it together. You know what I mean?
I still have that shit. I still have that. Yeah, that the Anakin art is that Pod Racer Anakin art is super good too. It almost has an Indiana Jones vibe to it, like the way that his eye line is across the. Yeah,
Went to buy the Phantom Menace with a friend in San Francisco, and we actually ran into Jackie Chan.
Oh shit.
And he was like, "Let me tell you the benefits of a communist society."
Do you remember a song that used to come on the radio, like on indie radio, and it mentioned Jackie Chan, and it went Jackie Chan,
Yeah, it's a newer song. I can't.
It was back then. No, this is like back
then.
This is like back in like on like 120 minutes. They used to play this like Jackie Chan song. And I'm like, why isn't that used in every fucking Jackie Chan trailer whenever he does it? It's so catchy. I still remember it.
Yeah, we were in the Virgin Megastore, and there was just packed full of like a lot of school kids and couldn't walk anywhere. And so we're just kind of try to go through the crowd. And then the next thing we know is like they get all crazy and they start screaming, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. And so we're like, move out of the way, kids, move out of the way. And so some kids like pushed me, and I turned around and said, "Hey, take it easy." And then I bumped into somebody while I was walking backwards, and I turned around, and it's fucking Jackie Chan. He's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Jackie Chan. Nice to meet you." And so
Daniel says the song was by Ash. Yeah.
To me, he's about right here, but he has the biggest hands for a small guy. Like,
you know what that means?
Jackie hands.
Jackie hands.
Baby. But he almost broke my hand when he shook my hand.
Oh, he's one of those guys.
It means he gets all the gyos at the table. He just grabs them like.
Take your hand in this, dude.
He read that book. He's like, you got to squeeze really hard so they know you're serious. That's how you show respect. Well, I know I didn't know that Ash was the band who did that. I never put it together. But yeah. So really quickly, we got about a half hour left. We'll do this kind of faster. Let me try to share a screen and see if I crash. If I crash, it's funny, and we just won't show the shit. Okay.
We'll see if I can make some work later.
So there were. Okay. Oh yeah, I have to go down and put it on the screen. Where did it put it? There it goes. So this is something that was tossed my way, and that's a Kenobi camera crew shirt from when they finished.
That is pretty cool.
And that was given out to people on the camera crew.
Always cooler than the shirts they let us make on actual Star Wars merch. And
this is the official one that was put up by this person.
Yeah, that looks more like the stuff they make us make.
Yeah.
A good Target. Like, great. It's got the twin sons. Wonderful.
Yeah. I it's interesting to see. It's like a thank you note right there. I can't really read it. I think
remember how all the Rogue One shirts were like all material design like that, like super flat. I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, lean into the cool 80s. I want the glitter rendered shit like they used to have on Star Wars shirts back in the day.
I
Yeah.
want that mural that's put on the side of my van.
And
Just
then
bitching.
and
Like
bitching.
Bad bitching. Bad bitching.
Like Hutch.
And then yeah, so just interesting to like see that stuff. Some people really freak out over it. I used to get a lot more excited about it when I couldn't believe they were making an episode 7, for instance. But today I'm a little bit like, okay, it's just nice to have the confirmation. But on a side note, I found on a little drive some episode 7 concept art that I had kicking around from back in the day. And I was like, oh wow, some of it leaked out because I was new at this and shared it with people who I thought I could trust that I couldn't. And they shared it around, and then a few of them got out here and there. My bad. And
Sources came to your house.
no, it was okay. I actually had permission at that point to release it all on the site if I wanted to, but I figured that might be going too far. So I was like, I'm not going to do it. But very, interesting. Like these pieces right here, like they used like real, like I was saying, these are like done in Photoshop. There's some kind of weird
photo
thing.
bashing.
Yeah, they would
It's
use
called
like
photo bashing.
Yeah, pictures from like Jordan and one of them I was hoping I had. I don't know if it's in this batch. I'm trying to find it, but it has the Millennium Falcon with Luke Skywalker's X-wing out there. And these paintings and this work was stuff that was at Pinewood on set. This stuff wasn't. So it definitely, so it had importance to it.
When do you think they changed the dish shape?
I don't know. I mean, I know that they had that whole round of changes that the production designer suggested, and but I don't know if I never, but
when
most of
JJ
the-
realized he can make money off that toy, that's when.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Did they specifically do it so they can have a differentiation between Millennium Falcons when they release them? Yeah.
everything I was seeing in 2014 and 2015 had the round dish on it. It was a semi surprise that if they were going with the changed dish when it came out, if I remember right. And Chewbacca, and this was concept art for his wounded hand, bionic arm. This was like some ideas that they were kicking around for because he was going to get injured, and do we want to change him up or do we, but bionic arm Chewbacca kind of would have been interesting, but also not really needed. And there you go.
You can detach it and it can go run around like things from that. It could like open doors and
It's got its own scomp link.
Yeah. But, just old Chewbacca. And that one, I think, ended up,
I remember seeing
Indie
that one.
Revolver, I think, released this one.
They just changed the coat pretty much, yeah.
And there's the other one right there. This is a work in progress, as you can see. Most of these really super dark, this is the way I got it. And but it's a work in progress. But so I don't know if this one made it into the Art of the Force Awakens. I don't have that book anymore. I lost it in a move, or I can't find it since the move. And but I'm not sure if this one made it in, but this would definitely be a different version of that one. And this was the stuff we were getting for Maz's castle, and they did a lot of paintings though of Kylo having apprehended Rey in the castle. And so that moment when Rey runs out of the castle out into the Puzzlewood forest, the set was made at Puzzlewood. When they were doing that stuff, I think that they, for a time, they didn't know what the motivations were going to be to make her run or where she was going to run to. And so at some point in production, obviously it was all figured out, but I think we'll see in a few of these pieces. And this, at the time, I was getting this with pictures of Mark Hamill as Kylo Ren. They were using a young Mark Hamill, but also a lot of the pieces, I'm not sure if there's any in this batch or not, but they would use Darth Vader for Kylo Ren because they hadn't designed him yet. So if Darth Vader looked right in the picture, then Kylo would look right. That was kind of the design's thinking, I believe. But as you can see, I got a feeling this stuff may have led to Rogue One putting Darth Vader's castle in, because a lot of the castles for Maz's castles ended up looking very much like the Darth Vader stuff that we got later on. And this pretty much is them, I believe, taking that set, that place over there in England, and being like, what would it look like if we dressed it up in Star Wars stuff? And that's it. This is one of the ones that was one of my more favorite ones. If
I had a critique of the last two, it's that those are two different planets and they could be the same one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of those things where I'm not saying every planet in Star Wars needs one biome, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that. But when you can't tell you left one geography from the next, that gets to be a bit of a problem. Like, there's no reason why the Rebel base couldn't have been set up at night, or could be set up during dusk shots, or autumn shots or whatever. Like, there's just different time of days and locations that could be used to help differentiate between locations. It just gets
what I think happened is I think they were going to set the base on Yavin. Either that, or I just got a bunch of Rogue One concept art mixed in with stuff that they didn't even know at the time. But I think the base, the Rebel base, or the Resistance base was going to be on Yavin. And then I think Rogue One was in production, and they were like, this is maybe too much, and maybe it won't be consistent. And so, because like when you look at the insides of the set, you'll see like giant vines like going into the ground and stuff, and it doesn't make any sense because there's no trees above them.
Right, it's just those World War II dugout hills.
Yeah, it's like a missile thing from England or whatever, in real life, like a missile silo center or something. Yeah, and it's really really strange. And I got a feeling that's what happened. But look at this right here. I mean, like the Maz stuff is very quaint in the movie. It's pretty. I don't hate it. And Rey gets to a green planet. That's kind of the point, is that she gets there. But this is so much more visually interesting.
When it was supposed to be a pirate ship town. Yeah.
It was more of a true pirate town.
Way cooler.
And sometimes it looked more like Shanghai at times. I'm not sure. Some of those might be in here. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, look, it's the Avco chessboard, you guys. So if you want to make,
it's funny they don't have actual schematics already lying around. They had to go back and redo that.
Yeah,
that is kind of weird. I would think that they'd have that.
4 costumes.
Guys, shut up! I got paid, man. Shut up.
Yeah, you see a little picture here from A New Hope, and
right
there it is. Millennium Falcon landed. I believe this would have been probably Maz Kanata's place, maybe.
It's Docking Bay 49.
Yeah, Docking Bay 69, bro.
Plus 69.
They got suicide net at the top, right? To keep from what?
We don't even have those at work. That sucks.
Amazon cutting corners.
So here's a little pop-out toolkit for BB-8.
Where you put the hot pockets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't work for Amazon.
Right this is his business card that he hands you. No, data port interface. I'm not sure if this stuff ever ended up coming out or not. There's the laser cutter that he gives you the thumbs up with. The fold-out hand cutter. And extended hand. And so this right here is where we see how the lightsaber would have been loaded in.
It's just Luke's dead hand holding the saber, and it shoots out the hand.
Is it still attached?
That's where the hand's been the whole time. It's been rotting inside a BB-8.
Yeah, but they pretty much show you like how it worked on R2 and how they're going to have it work on BB-8. Because and so this is why for a long time I was like, and knowing what the opening of the film was, I was like, they're after the lightsaber. And then it got really confusing when that changed, because it was like, what are they after? This doesn't make sense. And right here, this is kind of funny because I had a lot of the stuff about how it was going to work as a puppet and as a practical effect, but not necessarily what they were doing when they actually made the real kind of radio controlled, if you will, BB-8, the remote controlled one. But this right here shows like how they were going to use to like make the balance on the head and stuff. And I wrote an article about it, and it got in Popular Mechanics as being debunked.
Those
And I was
two in
like,
the upper right too kind of look at like what Dio is that the one that was in Rise of Skywalker?
that is a little bit of that Dio wheel kind of vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's like you could kind of see where they were coming from with it. And big fan of this one. I like this little guy right here. I think it's a little bit cuter, but yeah, and this guy right here on the right over here is the first one I ever saw, I think. And that's why when no one had heard a thing about BB-8, and I wrote about him, and I called him the soccer ball droid. And you could kind of see why. I think a volleyball might have been more apt, but I called it the soccer ball droid. And this was the one of Rey, where if you listen back to my podcast back in the day, I used to say, I think she's a scavenger. She definitely has Han Solo's gun, but her costume kind of reminds me of a little bit like a ghetto Padme. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You could kind of see where they were going with that. And yeah, this is the approach on the popsicle lightsaber, as we called it. I mean, popsicle speeder, not lightsaber, popsicle speeder into Jakku, and some interesting ships over here. This is now for a time there was quite a bit of art about those ships that are out there, the ones that they go to steal before they pick the Falcon. And this little cart back here, they did quite a bit of work on it. So like they had the idea or plans that Rey was going to have this smaller vehicle that she would load up junk on and then fill it up into her main ship. And by the way,
they used that back in when they did the first season of The Mandalorian, like the first episode, Brian Poseidon's driving one of those things.
Pretty much. Not too far off from it really. But yeah, you could see like right here, like this thing. And there was one piece that I really thought was interesting that was just like, it was clearly like blue sky. Oh, and some of the front of these ships remind me of the Ghost. I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but you can kind of see it there too. Yeah, it's like a B-29 bomber kind of front almost.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, there was one that was interesting that I saw back then that was one of these ships. I want to say it may have been this one right here, and it's flying kind of, it might even be the same photo of the ship. No, it's not. It was different. But it has Poe Dameron's in there with this X-Wing helmet on, giving a thumbs up while a wire comes down, and Rey and Finn are like giving the thumbs up back while he takes some piece of junk. And I just wonder if very early on in an early version of the script, if they had the idea that they were going to fix the Millennium Falcon and Luke's X-Wing, and that's how they got off the planet. And you know what I mean? If that was sort of, and then maybe
I hate to be like the guy who's like, oh man, we should have done this. I just feel like the Battle of Jakku should be why all those ships ended up on that planet in the first place. There was a big battle and their ships went down. You know, maybe it was a big defeat for the Rebellion or the New Republic or whatever. You know, maybe that was the first real attack of the First Order and that's where they got a foot plant. Like, just feels like that setting could have been mined a bit better, you know, for all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like she easily could have just found the Falcon embedded out there, you know, and inside that fucking thing was, I mean, for all I know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just seems like a...
OT ship.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go with like a societal collapse thing where, you know, when the Empire crumbled, just led to mass chaos and things never really got back, you know, to like a true stability or something like that. Where they ended up taking it was kind of weird. I mean, it's like I watched The Mandalorian and I kind of feel like, well, they're kind of doing that anyways. It kind of does feel like that's kind of where the galaxy's at. They're trying to make it not that, with like the Rangers of the New Republic and shit like that. But you know, it's the first time I saw the new Stormtroopers right here. I think that was maybe one of two pieces that I saw. And yeah, Kylo's lander right here. Love this painting. I'm sure that one has been released, I would think anyways. And you can see like the little landers landing right here up in the sky. And yeah. This was the Wampa Claw lightsaber that they were working on. They were working out ideas, and I'm not sure if like that. I think that was just a button on the side to like turn it on. I don't think it was going to be like the crossguard Kylo saber, but they
It's
were working.
RGB control.
They were working out. They were working out how to make Kylo around that time. And so the Captain Phasma armor and this right here was one of the things that they had suggested anyway for Kylo Ren was the Captain Phasma's armor and this Wampa Claw lightsaber. This is a real photo, by the way, of one of the first Stormtrooper helmets I was ever sent.
Did we ever figure out, or did anybody say that Phasma's armor was lightsaber proof?
I'm not sure if they ended up making that a thing or not.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean they might have because I mean it never became an issue.
That would have
though.
been cool if she was carrying like
Beskar.
a weapon like that. Like she's like,
Beskar.
I've slinged some Jedi wannabes, and now here's my little.
I feel like the official story ended up being that her armor was made out of Nubian ship material. Yeah, I'm not joking. That it was made out of the materials of the Nubian ships from Naboo. Yeah, I think that's what they ended up going with actually. Yeah, this was like a weird thing right here where you had that character, the character that wants to kill BB-8.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had him on this is like him on the snow planet. And yeah, that whole thing and making little walkers out there for the snow. And then so I'm guessing that this ended up leading to that. And then here was another low res picture of that helmet I was sent back in the day. And here's those walkers you see out in the very, very far distance. And like those little tank walker things. And kind of would have liked to have seen those guys get a little action moment. But at the same time, I'm not all for just making action moments because you designed something, And here's the Phasma right here. And
she got a nice big cod piece.
Yeah, this is Kylo Ren. That's
Very
supposed
Roman.
That's supposed to be Adam Driver's dick, not Quinlan Christmas.
This is my dick.
Yeah,
Gotta protect it, bro.
Yeah,
I still think that would have been a better look for him than trying to do like Darth Vader light.
Yeah, I like being like the king of the stormtroopers is kind of cooler in a lot of ways.
Right.
And yeah, it is.
What would be cool too is on the previous picture with the walkers. Like I've always was hoping at some point they're going to make them where they have a top that can detach.
Mm-hmm.
So from the legs, so like the top can be partially a starship or.
Yeah, if you go to trip it, it will just kind of like the part will just hover off and continue fighting.
Much,
yeah. There's the first time I ever saw the TIE Fighter helmets from that one too. Yeah, there you go. Another one of the Kylo picks. Early
Kylo Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
This is like a Kylo concept. There, silhouette concept. It became
needs to eat more fiber. Ren.
Yeah,
got some
mushroom head. A real dickhead.
A little Zuvio in there.
They turn these concepts eventually all into the early Knights of Ren too. All of that stuff. Here's a storyboard for when Rey goes out into the forest and outside of Maz Kanata's castle and they can't find her. They pitched this little concept storyboard of they're out there trying to find her and they can't. And then this giant tentacle comes out, whips around and grabs the stormtrooper. And you see how dangerous it is out there. And that was going to be, that was going to be a reason. I think the thinking behind it, I'm guessing, but I'm thinking that it was about why doesn't she show up with a bunch of stormtroopers? Why is it just Rey and Kylo out there alone? And yeah, TIE Fighter, which once again, I feel like those kind of came out and they put the red on them and then you never saw them again for the most part. And this stuff is all very well known now. I remember this one leaked out very early on. from the end battle. Oh yeah, there's the other one to the stormtrooper one. This is the from the first batch of first order stormtrooper stuff I ever saw.
No neck trooper.
No neck trooper, but
Or is that
yeah.
just Finn sitting in there?
People said they remind me of Donald Duck. That's what they were saying, like whispering. They're like Donald Duck faced. This right here goes to that storyboard. This is a painting that relates to the storyboard where you have biker scouts going through the forest trying to find Rey and these giant kind of like
It's the wall walkers, bro. Remember you used to get a box
walkers.
of honeycomb cereal? They have these wall walkers you throw at the wall and they doot, doot,
Yeah,
doot.
they were called wacky wall walkers. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's them. They missed out on a good toy opportunity there too, didn't they?
80s are coming back.
Came back. No, they didn't. No, they said no.
No, they didn't. They
said
were like,
no.
no. George is like, I put the fucking stamp on that, man. No, we're not doing that.
He's like, it's not copyrighted the fucking teddy bear, motherfucker. Actually, that's
Yeah.
that's a bit of baloney, actually.
It's like,
I killed it.
Yeah, so that's all I found for us today.
I'm a wall walker.
I'm a wacky wall walker.
I get on my gravity boots. I get up there. I just ride away. Do all my riding in gravity boots.
They gave me a pen and some cocaine. I start writing Mandalorian season 6. I'm a wacky wall walker.
I wrote season 12, so we know where to go. We're gonna get there someday.
Like, yeah, all right, 12. Man, I just let Favreau fill it in.
I got it from Image Comics. They did Image 25. They did 25 issues way ahead of time.
That's how they convinced him to do the show and not write it at all. So like, well, we want you to write season 25, and then Favreau's going to write up to it. Okay, all right, cool.
I like how that last one was like he just had a red head,
Yeah,
the Imperial guy for no reason. Like, what was it,
Yeah.
JJ and the one red thing? It's his thing,
Yeah.
man, with the one red something or other. I don't know.
my take at the time was when you think back to that, like that feeling that you get, like when I think back to the feeling of Return of the Jedi, that very dark with like the Imperial Red Guards that really popped. That's a very Star Wars like feeling. And he was calling the movie, Avco. That was like the company's like code name and stuff because of that Return of the Jedi stuff. And I was like, yeah, I think he's trying to call back to that. So I feel like that's where a lot of that came from. We'd have to ask him. I'm obviously guessing, but that was where I was like, that's my guess about where his head was on all of that stuff. Is there's just something really super striking about red on black, and
It's the Nazis.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see them moving forward. Maybe push the bad guy color schemes beyond what we've already seen.
Neutral colors.
Purple.
No, I just think that there's just ways you can make any color the symbol for bad if you know how to use it right. Like, it's just if it's like when you see a game like Deus Ex had a re-release back in 2010. It was like all yellow, all gold, this like cyberpunky gold thing, and you're like, wow, I've never seen a color scheme like that. It'd just be nice to see them, even if it was emerald green, if it's fucking evil, man. You know what I mean? That green can be pushed into different ways, like that is not typical.
That's what I kind of think might be the ultimate value in stuff like Visions. Is in a way it might ended up proving to be kind of a testing ground for the parameters of Star Wars and what you can do with it, and where you can like take certain visuals. Not that Visions really went that far with that stuff.
Well, look at Margrave on the 9, right? The fact that he looks like an evil Vader Kylo Ren dude, but he isn't. Just little shit like that, where and even some of the use of color in Toby, which it's blue, but it's different. It's use of blues, greens, and oranges with white in the good guys. I mean, granted the bad guys straight up black and red, but like,
right.
I feel like I just feel like after Jedi and Maul, like, haven't we seen this? Like, I always thought it was interesting that George had Grievous only use blue and green lightsabers, right? Like, I mean, I get because he took him from Jedi, but he He didn't have to. It easily could be a thing where he's wielding 100 fucking red sabers because he went and corrupted all the crystal, like whatever stupid headcanon you need to justify the visual.
Yeah. Lucas. I think Lucas wanted to make it super clear that he wasn't a Sith. I think that's why, probably.
Well, no one got that. Like,
Yeah.
the average fan can't tell the difference. You know?
No.
Yeah, when you're wearing a cape in that universe, it's kind of hard to.
If you have a lightsaber, you're a Jedi or a Sith. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and that's one of the things that I think like Visions did pretty well, in the sense that they're like, oh yeah, you know, it's let's just let that happen because that's what you expect, that's what you want. But I also get mad like when they would do the Old Republic trailers and there's like 15 red lightsabers on screen. It just doesn't really look, to me. It didn't really look very visually appealing. When they
the way it was shot though.
Sure.
You know, like I guarantee, you know, if Conrad Hall or Roger Deakins shoots that's a completely different visual.
Sure.
Than, you know, just flat side view run with After Effects, you know, like it doesn't, you know, doesn't pop.
Yeah. But you know, the problem with I think Disney era Star Wars is always going to be that you have to meet expectations. And you can't really necessarily. I hope they just do their own thing and don't give a fuck sometimes and make it happen. But there's an expected vibe or look of or expected thing of what Star Wars is all the time, and they tried to be brave and go away from it. But then I think when they are, to them, it doesn't feel like Star Wars all of a sudden. And then it's either cowardice or it's smart or both. I don't know. But like
the most
Rogue
they've
One,
pushed it. But I think the most they've pushed it in live action Solo. Like it's not my favorite of their films, but like I look at that, I'm like, this feels like its own little pocket Star Wars universe in a way, you know, like it has its own defined, like it is in between the prequels and the first movie, but it definitely has its own little, it's super dark though. That's why I don't think that cinematography needed to be like in Rogue One or Revenge of the Sith. Like it's weird why they got that guy's amazing cinematographer, but it's like this is such a serious fucking way to shoot the film, like for such a jovial, lighthearted concept, you know. Like that's why I don't that's why I don't understand about it.
Yeah, that part I didn't dig, and it's weird because like I said, I'm like happy with everything that we've had. Like I haven't got something where I've been like, oh, this just looks like shit or it's completely bad. Like I've said before, 9 did hit my lowest expectations of, oh god, like 9 is what I was like figuring it was going to be the whole time. So to be honest, like I thought it's probably going to suck without George.
When you're expecting Batman and Robin, you're not as let down as everyone else that was in the theater with me that did not expect that movie. They were expecting Batman Forever. God, I gotta tell you, man, that's the greatest experience I've ever had in a theater.
That's sad. People should never be expecting Batman Forever.
I went into a theater with a bunch of people who cheered when the credits rolled a month before the movie came out. Was it maybe 2 months? No, it was 3 months because it was right when we saw Return of the Jedi. Anyways, but I saw it way in advance. Everyone cheered. People walked out before it was done. And when it was over, nobody said anything. It was quiet. And I was taking people, because it was one of the surveys, you know? I was taking people, hand me your survey, I'll fill it out. Just give me all your surveys.
Your fault. You're like, it's great. It's fantastic. It's perfect.
More like this. Yes, please add sound effects. Like, whoop, wee, whoop. And do them with like Michael Winslow. Like, get the Police Academy guy to do them.
I remember I saw a test screening of this Edward Furlong movie back in the 90s, probably early 90s it was with Randy, and it was like he like is in a game, but it's like a virtual reality thing, and it ends up being like really evil and not cool. Anyways, it was trash. But everybody thought it was so bad that everybody was ironically cheering for it and like screaming about it, like how good it was, because it was just awful. And when it came time to fill out the surveys, everybody was like tens. They were like shouting it. And so it was pretty funny because I'm pretty sure they thought that movie was going to be really good after that screening.
Affleck, you don't bomb in Phantoms, yo.
Yeah.
How many people have even seen Phantoms that laugh at that joke? I bet you most people never
Most
even
haven't
saw
seen
it.
it.
No.
It's just hilarious the way
I do
he
actually
yells
like that
it.
movie, though.
Yeah.
Jason means delivery. I don't know what Snookins actually means, and it's funny every time too.
I enjoyed Reindeer Games. Not a great
Yeah,
film,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I watched
Well,
Reindeer
fun.
Games and Deep Impact as a blockbuster double feature. You know, blockbuster video double feature.
You're all. We just have it right behind me, right here. Just take the little chip off of the nail and hand that to the attendant, and he'll give you the video.
No, I get that big box where they have like Whoppers and Sour Patch Kids in there. You can get the two for one deal.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna call this one a day because we have to go pick up our childrinos, which is a name for our weird little kids that I just made up. And thanks everyone who hung out with us today and watched the show. And we will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to come hang out with us and talk about Star Wars, by all means. And if there's anything you guys want to talk about, send me a message and we'll talk about it. Or come in the chat and tell me and we'll talk about it. Or we'll berate you. But thanks, guys, for coming today. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's not about spaceships.
Making Star Wars.